was just curious about your take on abortion.
Yeah, I am totally against abortion in any circumstance.
My take as a pro-lifer, excuse me, is I don't think it's irrational to be pro-choice.
Well, I don't know if I would make the claim that it's irrational. You can be rational and still be evil.
I agree on that 100%. And that's all I wanted to know because I've been debating people and there's a lot of prompts about how abortion is irrational. But at the end of the day, and again, I'm from Texas, and then moved to New York, and I've had split views on abortion basically my whole life. And the best argument I ever heard for why it's rational is the whole we're animals, we're mammals. It's documented throughout other mammals, rodents, primates, that they will eat their own, they'll unalive their own, they'll kick their own out just
Hmm.
based on survival and self-preservation. And when women have an abortion, it's purely, well, not all the time. If you just want an abortion, you're a terrible person. But if you're just doing it because your instincts are kicking in and saying this is going to ruin your life, blah, 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 that's just instincts being self preservation. And I've been debating people a lot on the fact that it might not be morally right, but rationally, it makes sense why a woman will have an abortion.
Okay, what if there was a woman who was 6 months pregnant? Or actually, no. Let's say there was a woman who had a 2-month-old infant, right?
Sure.
And she lived in an apartment, and her landlord came to her and said, "You're being evicted. Uh, the reasons doesn't really matter." And then she goes into work the next day, and she finds out that she's been fired,
Yeah.
and she has like no other way to go. She can't get another job. Whatever. Would it be rational for her to eat her child?
No.
Why not?
Because she brought the child through um, birth. And at that point, there are not like instinctually at that point, you would just give up the child to a fire department.
Right, but the same thing could be done for people who get abortions. You could just give the child up for adoption.
Not while it's in you. And that's the real difference in that take, is that when the child's in you, you're in a fight or flight situation, and the options are, right this second. Once the child's already out, the right this second could literally be giving the child up. And now, before you interrupt, I do think that as science progresses, there's totally an argument as surrogacy science increases, and the solution to abortion could literally be, hey, we have this incubator. You could get rid of your fetus right now and put it in this, and from there it'll go. But that ultimately ends up in the government and how much money they're willing to put into subsidized healthcare,
You know, I think they actually somebody did a poll on this that I saw like a probably like 6 months ago. But they went around asking pro-choice women if this option was available, if they would still get an abortion, and like 70% of them said yes.
Yeah, that's just people being bad people. Because if you have the option to either unalive or just give up, then you're a bad person at that point. That's a morally terrible take. But the only issue is that's not reality yet. And I think that the people who are saying that are bad people. But I think that if that was reality, it would solve the abortion issue, at least on the scale of people who are morally correct.
Do you think that emotional reactions are can be rational reactions?
I do.
What is rationality?
Rationality is, and this is a tough conversation because there's two distinct descriptions to rationality. One, it's applying logic to a situation. Two, it's reacting on your own instincts, and that could be considered logical. And I think that's an important distinction to make. um, I think that humans have more of a responsibility to take a breath when making a decision. I don't think that breath, I think rationally looking at humans, that self-preservation is a really good argument for why people can't have a pro-choice argument.
Could you find me a source that uses your definition of rationality?
I think that if you Google rationality, it'll say that it's applying logic to reasoning.
Yeah, but you said there's another definition that says reactions based on emotion or something to that effect. That would actually be the opposite of rationality.
Well, I think that the difference is third person point of view,
Hmm.
in the sense that you could say that something is rational based on applying logic to a decision, but when you're the third person looking at someone, you could see why their emotion is rational. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that's the description, or the distinction between rationality and logic.
Well, emotion is, correct me if I'm wrong, but emotion is always involuntary. Like true emotion, true expressions of emotion are
Instinctual.
involuntary. So, how could something, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding how you could say that rationality is both logical thinking and the exact opposite. A word can't have two meanings that are exactly opposite of one another.
I think that the distinction is what I'm saying is that from a third party point of view, you could acknowledge something as rational, but also think that it's wrong. And I think a really good example of this is what you have in your take as slavery. you
Hmm.
know like, and you could look at slavery and be like, it's entirely rational to have somebody else do your labor for you so you could have the proceeds of that. Is that wrong? Absolutely. But is it rational? Yes. you know and I
Yeah,
think that
but
only
slavery wasn't caused by an instinctual reaction to something.
it was caused by instinctual reaction. The instinct was, hey, I am a man, because back in the day, it really was men who had power. I'm a man. I want more power because my instincts are telling me I can commandeer more mates and have more babies and reproduce and be wealthier and blah, blah, blah. And how do I go about that? Well, it's by having people make me wealthy. How do I do that? By conquering others. Conquering has always been an instinct of human nature. Throughout animals, throughout human nature, it's just been always conquer the species that you can. And unfortunately for the black community, it was, white people conquering black people.
I take many issues with what you just said.
Explain.
So I'll work a little bit backwards here, because this is a topic that I've researched heavily. Slavery did not start with white people saying, hey, these people are a different skin color than us, so let's enslave them. No. Um, in Western Central Africa, the Portuguese discovered these people who were more primitive than them and were more easily subjugated. Okay, so they brought them back to Portugal. It's the same thing they did in the Caribbean islands with the people they called the Caribs. Uh, they took the people and brought them back to Portugal and enslaved them. And as people like Carl Linnaeus made distinctions between races, and like Johann Blumenbach and all those people, they gradually formed distinctions between races. They started using that as a justification for things that they were already doing. So you can't say that our instinct was to conquer black people. No, our instinct was to find easily subjugated or that wasn't even our instinct. Our instinct was, hey, these people are easily subjugated. We need people over here to work, especially after the Black Plague. After the Black Plague, between like right before the Black Plague, our world population was something around 360 million, and
Yeah,
then
no,
like
we're,
and then
we're,
like
we're, we're
200
agreeing on
years
all of this.
and then like 200 years later, when the population should have been closer to probably 600 million, it actually went down to 350 million.
Yeah.
So they recognized that there was a shortage of labor, and they just happened to be exploring at the same time. And they came across this entire group of people, and they're like, "Hey, we need labor. Let's bring these people back over here." And I don't even know if their original intention was to enslave them. I think that sub-Saharan Africans were being enslaved by other sub-Saharan Africans before the Portuguese actually ever got there.
They were.
And the sub-Saharan Africans that were enslaving these other people said, "Hey, we don't have much to trade, but if you give us stuff, we'll give you these people."
Yeah. And, that's, I don't mean to be, you know, circular with this, but that's kind of the point I'm making, that at the end of the day, there's a need for self preservation. And after the Black Plague, there needed to be workers, and you saw these subjugated people already, and you took them. And that was the whole case. And when you apply that to a topic like abortion, you can't argue against the self preservation sense when it comes down to every mammal, primates, rodents, expanded to insects or arachnids like spiders. Some animals literally have kids just to consume them for energy during, tough winters. And when it comes to women, the biggest thing is we as humans have a conscience, and that's the only difference. Now, the question is, morally, as a person, are you moral enough to fight against your animal instincts when it comes to abortion? And if the answer is no, then you're probably immoral. But if the answer is yes, you're not irrational because of that. It's just a self preservation instinct.
So I think it's very interesting that you say that it's wrong to unalive people,
Yeah.
except when it comes to people who haven't been born.
I
What's
didn't
the
say that. I do think it's immoral to for abortion. That's my whole take, is that it's immoral, but it's not rational.
Okay, then would it be irrational for somebody to unalive their neighbor?
Well, here's the take that I've posed to multiple people, is that if you're on an island, there's scarce food sources, you're there with one other person, is it irrational to unalive that person?
I would
No, it's
say
not.
yes.
Well, that's where we differ. You're conflating immoral with irrational. I don't think it's irrational to self-preserve. That's human nature at the end of the day.
Okay,
I think that it's immoral to unalive them.
I would still ask you to provide a source that uses your definition of rationality and not the one that I provided to you.
Any Thomas Hobbes take of humans are inherently evil. I think that would be a good source.
Okay, pull it up. I'm not going to read an entire series of books like just to find the definition that you're using.
Yeah, no, and we don't even have to go that far. I'm just of the take that most people are inherently evil. I think that that's a common thing. You look at basically the entire world outside of the US, people are unaliving people. There's less laws, there's gang violence, there's rape on mass scales, there's slaves still going on to this day. You can't really make the argument that people aren't naturally immoral. It's more
I don't
that,
know if that you could say that most people are naturally evil based off the examples that you gave. You would have to demonstrate that it's most people that are committing these actions.
do you think that you're a moral person?
Immoral or amoral person?
Amoral.
Do I think that I am a moral person? Yes, I do.
Do you think that you're in the minority or the majority of people?
Well, I'm not perfectly moral. There are things that I do that are wrong, but that doesn't
I
make me
know.
evil.
Agreed. But do you think that you're in the minority of like good people, or do you think that most people are worse than you?
Well, to make that determination, I would have to interview literally every single other person on Earth
Agreed. And
for
my
a
whole
very
take is
extended
that,
period of time.
but I think my whole point is, do you think that you can be immoral but also rational? I think that's the topic at the end of the day.
Well, this is so now it's morality versus rationality,
Yes. And it's a tough conversation. It genuinely is.
but I think that Well, certainly, I think that if you only operate on rationality, you can often lead yourself to conclusions that are immoral.
Most of the time.
Not necessarily most of the time.
I'd say most of the time. I think slavery was immoral. I think abortion is immoral. I think that grape is immoral. But all of those things, if you're acting on your own animalistic nature, it's rational to have that action. But I think that it's immoral to act on those actions.
That's three examples.
Sure. Schmurder is another one, and that's a huge thing for war throughout human nature. Is we fought so many wars and have had so many, deaths throughout the couple 100,000 years that Homo sapiens have been alive.
Okay, I'm thirsty, and so I drink water. Is that rational?
Yes.
Is it immoral?
No.
Okay, I'm hungry, so I eat food. Is that rational?
Yes.
Is it immoral?
No.
Uh, I like to touch things that are soft, so I pet my cat. Is that rational?
Yeah.
Is it immoral?
No.
I like to exercise. Well, I want to be healthy, so I exercise. Is that rational?
Yeah.
Is it immoral?
No.
Okay, so then how could you possibly ever say that most things that are rational are immoral?
I'm not saying that.
You
I'm
did
saying
say
that
that.
I'm saying that there are a lot of rational things that are immoral.
No,
And
you
because it's immoral,
actually did
and
say that most rational actions are immoral. You said that.
then I apologize, and I shouldn't have said that. All I'm saying is you could look at something immoral and also be able to say it's not irrational. And a great example of that is abortion. And I think that a big thing that I run into with people, and again, I'm not trying to appeal to authority, but I am genuinely pro life. And it comes down to the fact that when I argue people on this topic, I never make the argument that it's not irrational. I just make the argument that it is immoral.
Well, okay, you would need to walk me through the logic of getting an abortion.
I mean, I kind of went through that logic before when I was talking about how it's just such a common thing in the animal kingdom. And
Yeah,
at
but
the end of the day, we're
I
nothing but animals.
I think what separates us from animals is our rationality.
Sure, but do you refute that we have instincts at the end of the day?
Sure.
And if those instincts are telling a woman to have an abortion, do you think that that is not rational to have your instincts? And I'm differentiating from women who just want to have an abortion because they're like, oh my god, fuck babies, let's have an
Well,
abortion. I'm not talking about
what
that.
if her instincts tell her to make herself happy and abortion makes her happy? Would that
Then
still be rational?
how can I refute that as an irrational point if her instincts are saying your life is going to be better without this child?
Right, but would that still be rational?
I think it would be rational. I think it would be incredibly immoral. And
Then why would you make the distinction that it's wrong to get an abortion just because you want to get an abortion?
because I personally, anecdotally believe that it's wrong, but I don't think that it's irrational for somebody, specifically a woman, to have the instinct to say that my life is going to be worse because of this child, and therefore I should have an abortion. But but I think my more important take on this is comes down to the federal government. Are you from America?
Yes.
Do you well, I don't even mean to take it there, but are you a Trump supporter?
Uh, he aligns more with my views than the other candidate.
But you don't fully like support him in everything, correct?
No.
He's got some flaws. I agree with you. And I also agree with he aligns more. But either way, I think that a huge issue with abortion is more systemic and less individualistic because it comes down to the end of the day, if we just funded healthcare systems, there would be no question. We have AI. You're telling me we could generate an entire movie off of a prompt, but we can't take a fetus and raise it, but we could raise other animals, or if you pay $500,000, you could raise a baby
Well,
in a
certainly.
surrogacy
This is
system,
this
you
is
know?
the same thing that people say now about slavery. It's like people used to use the argument back in the 1850s of, but what about the economy? Well, we made it fucking work, didn't we?
Yeah, but I'm just saying like
No,
pro-life
no,
is
what
fine.
I'm saying that I agree with you on this point.
Yeah, and it's genuinely sad. The only reason we have a pro-life versus pro-choice is because we don't fund pro-life. You know, like if we funded pro-life, there'd be no issue whatsoever. And it's genuinely sad to see that we don't do that.
Wait, so you're pro-life, so you're not an abortion abolitionist, correct?
An abortion abolitionist would be pro-life.
No.
If you're trying to get rid of abortion abolitionist, then you're pro-life.
Okay, do you give exceptions?
To abortion,
Yeah.
I think there's a statistic of like 0.02% of abortions are for medically necessary situations where the woman's life's in danger. In that situation, yes.
Okay, so the difference between you and me is I want it totally outlawed in any case ever.
Even if the woman's going to pass away.
You would need to demonstrate to me that she will, and that an abortion is required to save her life.
I mean, the statistic is in 0.02%
Okay,
that of the situation.
why not just have an emergency C-section? So the way that I define abortion is a
Yeah,
medical procedure that terminates a pregnancy and has an intended outcome of producing uh a non-living like child.
yeah,
So any procedure where a person goes in and removes the fetus or what the zygote, embryo, whatever, with the intention of unaliving it, that is an abortion. Okay, so let's say that you have a woman who is pregnant. She's like 20 weeks pregnant.
yeah,
Okay, and she's literally about to unalive.
sure.
You could go in and perform an emergency C-section and attempt to save the life of the child.
Agreed.
I would not consider that to be an abortion.
But do you see the distinction I'm making between the woman making the choice to do that and her options? Because if there was an option that you could do this and save her life and save the child, that would be a great option. But right now in the healthcare system, there's not a system where there could be, a 14-week-old little embryo that's just sprouting out to a fetus and that could be saved. There's just not that option.
Well,
So it's
the
an
age for viability is being lowered all the time.
and I'm not against that whatsoever. I'm just saying that there's and because of this society constructs, there's not that option available to women. The option
Well,
is abortion or this situation where you might perish. And if
think about
there
this though. Think about this. Think about the way that I defined abortion in this distinction I made.
yeah,
So, in the case where it is medically necessary to perform this procedure in order
yeah,
to save the mother's life,
yeah.
what is the difference for the mother between having the abortion and getting an emergency C-section? What is the difference?
There's no difference. She should have the emergency C-section.
Okay, so then I would not classify that emergency C-section that leads to the unaliving of the child as an abortion.
You're saying that if the child perishes because of the C-section, it's a different story based on
Yes.
sure.
And think about this also. How do we know that it is actually impossible to have a successful C-section at any age before 20 weeks if we just abort the fetus instead of attempting to save it? This is how this is how
That's
medical breakthroughs take place, is in stated times of crisis, right? So
that's literally my take exactly, is that women aren't the medical professionals. They're posed with two options, abortion or this risk. If there was a third option, that would be an entirely different story.
there
But it comes down
is.
to, but there's not posed to them because
Okay,
there's
think
not
think
funding for
about
this.
think about this. If they are going in saying I want an abortion,
Yes.
okay, so they understand that abortion will cause the unaliving of the fetus, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why not attempt to save the life of the fetus by having an emergency C-section?
Is that a question that's naturally posed to women when they're in this situation?
Well, it's something that I think women should consider before they get into that state. That I think that we need
But
better
they're,
education for people, for women,
yes, yes,
at the
but
first in the very first stages of their pregnancy. So, like,
yeah,
I think there could be like a, you know how there's like a national self unaliving hotline.
yeah,
I think there should be a national like pregnancy hotline that you can call when you first find out that you're pregnant, and they
yeah,
will walk you through, and like the person that's talking to you needs to be unbiased,
yep.
and they need to like advocate for human rights for all humans, okay?
And wait, we're agreeing. Now, my question, my sole question is that in existence right now that you could go and have a 13, 20-week old, 26-week old baby taken out and free of charge put in a surrogacy either throughout a mechanical, incubation machine or another human being? Is that available? Because my moral is telling me that's the best option, but that's not an option because of the federal government and because they refuse to create something like that.
Well, then create it.
Agreed, 100%
No,
agreed.
you
So
or me.
yeah, anyone could create that, and we 100% have the science and the technology, and that's why I have such a as someone who's pro-life, that's why I argue against pro-life sometimes because we have the money, we have the funding, we have the science. Why not build incubators for these kids? That's my issue. That's my whole issue at the end of the day, and it's really disheartening to see that the
Bills.
government can't
Hold
do
on.
that.
This person in chat said, "Thank God for abortion." Do you think that God is happy with people who get abortions? Let me know.
Well, either way, I'm going to jump out of here, but I don't think we're inherently against each other. I just think that, if we support pro life has to be better. And there's options based on science and money that we could totally just take care of all fetuses and not
Yeah,
have this option.
so I understand um your argument is that something might be immoral while still being rational. I can
Yeah,
understand the argument because like it might be rational for you to steal food from somebody because you're
yeah,
starving, but it doesn't speak to the morality of the action.
of course.
That actually does make sense to me.
But either way, appreciate you, brother. You
Yeah,
have a
no
good
problem.
live. I'll catch you later.